Hey, what's up, YouTube? You're here listening to The Rerun, YouTube's most awesome furry and retro gaming podcast. And I am Retro Coyote. So you may have noticed I look a little bit different. Got a haircut. So, my people see me, they, cut your hair. It's always a big deal. So want to get that out of the way first. If you don't recognize me, it is me. But today we're going to be going over something kind of near and dear to my heart. Something that's kind of given me a lot of joy over the years. And a lot of joy for you too, I would assume. Especially if you are on the go a lot, if you're around in the 90s, 2000s. This was a big deal. Today we're going to be going over handheld consoles. We're going to be talking about them, going over a couple of the really popular ones, some of the less popular ones. We're going to be seeing, what was good about them, what worked, what didn't, and talk about the future of handheld gaming. Though obviously, a lot of the times it's this old thing here. Okay, so, it's going to be from how we got to Game Boy to this. We'll go over it. We'll have a good time. But before we get into that, if you enjoy the content here on this channel, then please make sure to like and subscribe. We are constantly growing the community we have here on YouTube and other places, and we'd love to have you with us. Also, if you want to support the channel perhaps a bit more directly, then please check out our Patreon. There will be a link there in the description below. Click it, and it's only $1 a month. It gets you a shout out in the video, and it helps support the channel more directly. So, beyond that, handhelds. So, usually these were cheaper than the home consoles, right? And if you were, up going around school all the time, maybe, obviously you wanted to play video games, but you weren't at your Nintendo, you had to do a handheld console. So, and they weren't always good. More often than not, it was a lesser version of what was at home, which even then was a lesser version than what was at the arcades. So there was definite levels to it. You know what I mean? So we're going to go over a couple of the more popular ones, less popular ones, kind of how it kind of branched off into these weird territories. Yeah, so starting off, if you were really broke, and we were certainly growing up in the day, you got these old boys here. These, if I can figure out how a camera works, Tiger handheld video games. This one is an original from 1994. All right. I tried to get it back up and running when I got it at like a local antique mall or whatever. It was rusty and falling apart on the inside. So sadly, through all the scrubbing in the world and several fresh pairs of batteries, I wasn't able to bring this back to life. Now, it's just a cool loaf of plastic. But it's still cool to have. It's very much collectible. Recently, they've come back with modern reproductions. So they're really cool. Little collectibles to have. This is a Sonic one that I have. I've played it. They're all terrible. Growing up, I used to have one for Disney's Hercules. So, I beat it. Believe it or not. Because you didn't have anything else. You had to beat it, right? But these were cheap. These were easy to find, easy to buy. You didn't need a separate game and a system and a this and just had it and you went. And it was awful. Right? Now, again, during the 90s, we had they counted to me as a handheld device. They were a game that was handheld, but perhaps not in the most traditional sense. The Tamagotchi. This is a modern edition. The Tamagotchi Pix. It has a little camera here. I've already played through it and won. He grew up and left and it was very sad and I cried. Tamagotchi has a special place in my heart. It always has, it always will. Digital, virtual pets, whatever. Right? My first pet anything was a Tamagotchi. The first game electronic game I ever owned on my own was a Tamagotchi. So Tamagotchi to me are special. And yeah, these were around during the 90s. They were a big fad, a couple different versions of it. And these days you see like Star Wars, Hello Kitty, Pokemon, everything has a Tamagotchi these days. So if there's something that you like, there's probably a Tamagotchi of it. Digimon was basically a boys' version of Tamagotchi, where Tamagotchi was mostly marketed to girls. Digimon was mostly marketed to boys. So Digimon, far from being a Pokemon clone as it was marketed here in the US, is a Tamagotchi clone. Very cool. So moving on from that, we had things like the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, that sort of thing. Then we ran into these, the SP and the 3DS, which are basically, well, up till very recently, modern living, right? And these were great, especially this. There are so many games out there for the Game Boy Advance and the DS. They both have such huge libraries that this thing here, this backwards compatible DS, you can get from anywhere to $60 to $100, depending on how much you're willing to look and what kind of condition you're willing to take it in. Mine here has a bad hinge, but I fixed it with a rubber band. Yeah, you usually get it for really cheap, and their batteries are powerful. They will last you. Their batteries are still good. So, if you're looking for something with a lot of games, a lot of cheap games that are really good, and you can play Pokemon on this, get one of these. Seriously, these are a godsend. Of course, we have the one that plays DS and 3DS games. Again, backward compatibility, always a good thing. Can't connect to the internet on these things anymore, though, which is a bummer because I've been doing a Pokemon challenge where I'm taking them through all the games and getting all the ribbons that I can. And I have to find a way to mod this or go on eBay and buy one that already has Pokemon Bank so I can move them from there, Pokemon Home. It's a whole thing. And that tends to happen when a lot of modern internet-connected consoles die. A lot of their stuff becomes unavailable, which sucks, but there are people out there who are doing their best to kind of preserve a lot of those games. And, you know, God bless you, you're doing God's work. For me, my favorite, for my money, in terms of like modding and everything and all the stuff you can do with it, is the PSP. Now, I was envious of anyone who had one of these back in the day, because aside from just having really good games, they had their own video format with the tiny little discs in it, and it is just a perfect time capsule of that early 2000s era. You had the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, Fifth Element, Kill Bill, stuff in that general era, and it was awesome. Because remember, Sony, they have a studio that makes movies, so you got a lot of really good movies here. And the resolution was 480p, not bad for the time. The screen was pretty good, and like I said, you can mod this. So I was able to set it up to where I can play my a lot of my PlayStation 1 games on here, and I have a lot of digital backups of my PSP games. So this is a lot of fun. There's even an attachable camera where you can take videos and pictures with this thing. You can play MP3s with it. This was a multimedia device in your pocket. Like I said, I was envious of anybody who had one of these things. These were cool, and they're still amazing. If you are able to get one of these cheap from Japan, or go to like a local flea market or whatever and pick one up, do it. Like I said, they're great for modding. They're a fun little thing to pick around with if you're into those little geek projects, and great library of games. And it's really fun, for me at least, to go back and play around with old outdated media especially ones that didn't have too long a lifespan. This stuck around a while, not nearly as long as its brother console that preceded it, the PS Vita. People loved the PS Vita. It only was on shelves for about a year before it was discontinued so they could focus on their home console. Shame. But Vita was a fun console and is still a great platform for modding. But for my money and just the nostalgia factor for me, PSP is my preferred console. So if you can get one of these cheap, you can swap out batteries, you can mod them, do just about anything under the sun with them. They are awesome. Get you one. Now these days, you're able to find consoles, or handhelds rather, at Walmart with games already on them. And that's where we get into these things. These are At Games handheld devices for Atari 2600 and Sega Genesis, respectively. All right, and these, for what they are, and for the price you pay, aren't bad. Now, are they going to be as good as the original consoles? No. And you're wrong to expect that for what you pay. These offer a wide variety of games already on there. They have the console in question, a couple of games for that, and a couple of like 8-bit generic whatever games just crammed on there so that they can have on the package like we have 200 or 100 games, right? They're pack-in titles. They're stuffing basically. But these have SD card slots. So if you have digital backups for your Sega Genesis and Atari 2600, you can put whatever games you want on here. It's awesome, especially for the Sega Genesis, because this Sega Genesis was what I had in my room when I was a kid. Then I moved on to PlayStation 1, yada yada. But yeah, I've spent many a night playing Genesis, so this particular console here has a lot of games, and I'll put some games on the SD card on here. It's awesome. It's so much fun. And again, sound quality and the performance isn't going to be up to snuff with the original Sega Genesis, but this isn't going to be your main console. This is going to be, you're going to be out for the day, you're going to be waiting a while at like a doctor's office, or you're waiting in an office on a meeting or something, and you just want something to do for a couple of hours. You're going to be laughing. You're going to be having a good time. Well, Jimmy's going to be coming up like, hey, can I play this? And you're like, no. But yeah, these are awesome. Especially for the price. You can find these for like almost nothing now, probably at like Goodwill or whatever. You can probably get them for like $5-10 a pop. There's so many awesome handheld games out there that are super cheap. And these days, you can get a lot of games, especially from Sega, because they offer a lot of their games as apps on your phone for the low price of free. I'm talking stuff like a lot of the old Sonic games, a lot of the original Phantasy Star RPGs, Crazy Taxi, Monkey Ball, Streets of Rage, all the old Sega classics. Assuming you have room on your phone, yeah, you can just load it up with a bunch of free games, just play on your phone, which is what most people do. Because these are smartphone. It's ubiquitous. They're everywhere. I mean, heck, you can even go get to a little box phone at Walmart, pop it on Wi-Fi, and just load it up and go. You could get just a burner phone as a dedicated gaming device. Because phones these days are pretty powerful. Certainly powerful enough to run a lot of those games. So, yeah, you could do that if you wanted. Or just use the phone you have in your pocket. Handhelds have been a part of gaming since its inception. And that's not likely to change. It'll take many forms, I'm sure. Who knows what's next after smartphone technology. I'm hoping we got the At Games over here. I'm hoping we get something more into the 3D era in terms of handheld, multi-game handhelds there. That would be really cool to see. Nintendo 64 come out with like a mini handheld system or something, you know what I mean? Something like that. How cool would it be to link up with your buddies and play old school Mario Party? right? Anyway, tell me down in the comments some of your favorite handheld consoles. Tell me the games you played on them, and just tell me your stories. I want to hear about your memories with handheld gaming. And hey, like I said earlier, guys, we're growing our community every day here on the channel, and we'd love to have you. So if you enjoy the content here on this podcast, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and definitely check out our Patreon down in the description below. It's only $1 a month, and it gets you a shout out in the video. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.